Can you hear me now? Yes. Guys, night number 2. Tuesday night. How's it going? It's going good? All right, my name's Kayla, if we haven't met. And that clearly is my small group. I didn't pay them. That's my small group. My name's Kayla. My name is Kayla Ray Lindgren, and I am married to Brian Lindgren. We serve at the Central Kitsap New Life campus. It's pretty awesome. You guys, I was laying in bed last night, and I was thinking, this is my 6th summer camp. Summer camp is my favorite week of the entire summer, and here we are. This is my 6th summer camp. Most of my young adult life has been spent growing up here at New Life. I did internship. Raise your hand if you have been a New Life intern. Come on. I graduated internship. Here's the thing. Internship changed my life. I was 18 years old, and I had a leader that I love and respect sit me down and say, here's your next step. You've got to do internship. I grew up in a Christian family, and I grew up in a Christian family, and I knew what it was like to hear God's voice. I knew the stories in the Bible, but I didn't know how to live it out. An internship was the first year where I felt like I heard God's voice, and I knew what to do about it. Some of you, you're coming into your junior and your senior year, and you're starting to pray, and you're starting to make big decisions of what it could look like for your future. Maybe tonight God calls you to do internship. Internship changed my life. It changed my perspective. It gave me a year where I got to hit the pause button and where I got to say, God, what do you want to do with my life? And I am so confident today that I would not be leading a small group. I would not be up here if it hadn't been for internship. So if you're like, that kind of sounds cool, come talk to me. I'd love to tell you more about it. All right, I have been praying for each and every one of you. I have been helping out with bunk assignments before we got to camp. Now, the bunk assignments are crazy. Like, just look around this room. Every single one of you has a first and a last name. And every single one of your first and last names wants to be with another first and last name. Now, the reason why I love doing cabin assignments, and for some people it totally stresses them out, is because I get to memorize your names. Now, there is not a way that maybe there is. That'd be awesome if I could meet every single one of you this week. But that feels like a lot of people. This is why I love to do cabin assignments, is because I get to see each and every one of your names. And I want you to know I've been praying for this night for a long time, since I started working on cabin assignments. Now, in high school, there were multiple moments where I felt stuck, and tonight we're going to walk through the life of Peter. And now Ryan Brewer last night, he talked about Peter and his life. And tonight, I want to propose to you that I want you to lean in. Now, maybe this is like your 7th camp or your 17th camp, or maybe this is just your first camp. And tonight, I want you to lean in. Raise your hand if you've seen the movie Hitch. How many of you have seen the movie Hitch? Yeah! Okay, it's like my favorite movie. Some of you tonight are scared of this whole God thing. Like, you think it is totally bogus. And I want to propose tonight that I want you just to lean in. I want you to lean in 20%. And we're going to watch God go 80%. If you give God just a little crack, I want to watch him work in your heart tonight. So tonight we are going to talk about Peter. And we're going to talk about moments in life where you feel stuck. Now, there was a moment specifically in high school, and I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, where I felt stuck. And I felt like I was caught in a storm. Have you ever felt like you've been in life and you have been just swinging and missing at pitches? I was there. I've been there. We're going to talk about Peter. Peter had many, many situations in his life where it felt like he was swinging and he was missing. And here's what I want you to catch tonight. If you're taking notes, I want you to write this down, because this is going to be the theme. Though you may swing and you may miss, grace says that there is always another pitch. How many of you grew up playing sports? Yeah. Okay. I grew up playing sports. I grew up loving baseball. Loving baseball. Yes. I think I have a picture coming up Can we throw my team picture? There we go. Okay, now let's zoom in. Kelly's O'Delly. Hello. There I am in my Mariners hat. Some of my earliest memories are in this living room, and it had like deep brown carpet. And on this deep brown carpet, I would sit on my dad's lap, and I was just a tiny little person. I would sit on my dad's lap, and I can still smell the Lay's chips that we would eat. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I can still smell them. I'm sitting on his lap, and I'm reaching over, and I'm picking up my baseball cap. And I put it on my hat, and I look over at my dad, and he's got his baseball cap on too. Every night when the Mariners were on, we would watch the game, and we would root for these heroes that I thought were amazing. And one day, I would get to play baseball just like them. I remember the morning that my dad said, hey, today's the day. We're going to go pick out your very first glove. Now, this is the starting point of it all. We're driving there. We're just making small talk. I got my next game tomorrow. I'm just a little nervous. We walk into the store, and I remember following my dad all the way to the back. And there's this huge wall of all of these gloves. And I remember looking up and looking up and looking up and being like, I want all of them. I want all of them. But my dad knew. My dad knew exactly which mitt I needed. And I said, Dad, I want all of them. I want all of them. Can I have all of them? And he said, no. This is the one you need. He bent down, and he grabbed one on the bottom shelf, and it came in this see-through box. And it had this tiny little mitt in there. And I looked at it, and I'm like, how am I going to play baseball with that? And inside this tiny little mitt was this ball. It was all wrapped up in there. I remember he handed it to me. He said, Kayla Ray, this is your first mitt, and you're going to keep this for the rest of your life. And I remember in that moment, I was like, I'm going to be a baseball player. I am going to be the best that there ever was. So we walk up to the counter, and the nice lady at the counter, and I'm like looking up at the counter, and I remember like watching her take the box and pack it all up, and I can still hear the moment where she is wrapping up the box, and she hands it, my dad's paying for it, and he hands her the money, and she wraps it all up, and she walks around the counter. She hands me the bag, and in one hand, I walk out of the store, one hand with the bag, and one hand holding my dad, and we walk out to the car. Now I've got my mitt. Then I remember we get home, and I carefully take out the box, and I put it on my kitchen table, and it sits there. And I just remember thinking, once I break this seal, this is going to be my glove forever. So I run in the kitchen, and I grab a Sharpie. I pop off the cap, and I take out the mitt, carefully take the ball out. And I remember having this moment where I had to take a deep breath. I had to get my best handwriting on, because this was going to be my mitt for a long time. Some of you know this moment. It's like when you're signing your name on the SATs. You're like, okay, I can do this. So here I was 6 years old. I had to get my best handwriting on. So I'm sitting there, and I start writing K, A. I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, this is going to be worth money someday. Like, I'm going to sell this on eBay for my kids' college. I'm sitting there, and I'm writing my name, K-A-Y-L-A. And I kept that on my shelf, and then the next day was game day. Now, I didn't mess around with T-ball. How many of you played T-ball? Raise your hand. I don't get T-ball. Like, I was so bored with it. And my dad, I don't know how he did this, but he's my dad. He snuck me in. So I was in first grade, and it was like kindergarten and first graders, and they played like T-ball. Like, they got to hit off the tee. But my dad signed me up, and he showed me up to my first game, and no joke, I'm literally playing with third and fourth graders. And it's like fast pitch, like it's the whole thing. I remember the first day, I got up to bat. Now the batter's box, guys, this is where heroes were made, in the batter's box. I would watch the Mariners with my dad, and I'd be eating my Lay's chips, and I'd be adjusting my cap, because you got to have your cap just right, otherwise you can't see right. So I'm watching, I'm like, in the batter's box is where heroes were made. So I remember the first time I stepped into the batter's box, and I was just I was there, and I probably had too much sass too. Like I kind of had like this attitude, and I'm like in first grade, and I'm playing with fourth graders, so they're like, "You're so tiny." I'm up there, and I'm ready, and it was the first time that I realized the batter's box is somewhere where heroes are made. But it's also somewhere where you can go down and you can swing as hard as you can with all of your might and put all of your power into something and walk away feeling shameful and defeated. The sum of being in the batter's box is either you're going to hit the ball or you're not. There's not really like any in between. This is a place where heroes were made. Now, my dad was my coach growing up. He was in that picture. My dad was always my coach. And here are the three things I remember, the first three things he taught me. We had like little pep talks before the game. And I was like, yeah, Dad, I'm adjusting my hat, got my mitt and my glove. Okay, yeah. The first thing, he said this, you keep your eye on the ball. Kayla Ray, you always keep your eye on the ball. You do not get distracted. It doesn't matter how much your mom is cheering for you in the stands. You keep your eye on that ball when you are in the batter's box. So I did that. I kept my eye on the ball. Some of you come to summer camp year after year and you're like, I can see. I got my eyes on Jesus. I get it. And then you go home and you get distracted. Maybe this is the year where you make a list and you're specific and you're making a list right now as I'm talking of things that you know because you've been to camp. You know these are the top 3 things that distract you from your relationship with Jesus when you get home. I had a leader look me in the eyes at my 3rd summer camp I'd ever been to as a student. She said, Kayla, there are things in your life that are distracting you. And this is the year where you go home and you know what distracts you. So you can keep your eyes on Jesus. The second thing to be a successful baseball player in the batter's box, number 2, is to have short-term memory. Short-term memory is key. Now, I'm not talking like Dory. I'm talking like you're going to get up in the batter's box, and there's going to be moments where you swing and you miss. In your relationship with Jesus, you need to understand grace, and tonight is all about grace. Grace says that there is always another pitch, that even though you might strike out, there is always another chance. God is ready to give you grace. The third thing is you never go down looking. So here's what this means in baseball terms. You never go down looking. You're in the batter's box, and it's strike 1, you swing. Strike 2, you swing. In the moment of strike 2, like you have a little bit more anxiety than you did in the first moment when you got in the batter's box. Like the first moment, you're like, I'm feeling good. Like, here we go. By the time strike 2 comes around, you're like, I have got to get it together because I'm either going to hit the ball or I'm not going to hit the ball. It's going to be one or the other. You have to have short-term memory loss. And you know, some of the best players in baseball will only hit the ball 3 out of 10 times. Some of you need to shift your perspective. Some of you are too hard on yourself. Some of you, the thoughts that play in your mind and in your head, if someone else knew how hard you were on yourself, you would be ashamed and you'd be embarrassed. God knows those thoughts. And tonight, God wants to give you grace, and he wants to give you a way out of those thoughts. Those are the 3 things. The first one, keep your eye on the ball. The second one was short-term memory is key. And the third one is to never go down looking. No matter what I did to prepare, there were still moments in my life where I'd get in the batter's box and I would strike out. And tonight is what it takes to get back in the box when you feel like you've been defeated. I'm going to pray. Will you guys pray with me? Jesus, we love you and we give you tonight. I pray that you speak to everyone in this field. God, from the old to the young. God, we're ready to hear your voice. We're ready to learn from Peter's life. God, I know for me this year, I have felt like Peter. May we learn all that you have for us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so last night, Ryan Brewer talked a little bit about Peter. Now, if Peter had like a highlight card, the number one thing on his baseball card would be he is unusable. He's unusable. People would have written this guy off. I want you to catch this vision tonight. God is constantly looking for people who feel unusable. Some of you might, this is your first camp and you feel like, I am unusable. What could the God of the universe, if there even is one, how could he use me? I want you to take a good look at Peter's life tonight. Because Peter was someone that everyone else wrote off as unusable. Now, Peter was the guy that probably struck out in school. And here's how we know this. We know this because Peter was a fisherman. How many of you like to fish? Yeah, I grew up fishing with my dad too. It was the best. Fishing is awesome. Now, back then, Peter was a young man, so he would have been educated. But because he was a fisherman, what we can tell from his story is the fact that he probably didn't finish school. He probably didn't feel like he was so hot at school, like he did so well. So he probably turned in the towel early and just picked up the family business, which was fishing. Now, Peter had a brother named Andrew. Peter and Andrew are fishing when Jesus first meets them. Some of you feel the anxiety, and I've sat with a lot of you this year, of the weight of school. And it's hard, and it's stressful, and it's scary. And some of you feel like you are unusable for God's purposes because you don't feel smart enough, or you don't feel good enough, or you don't feel talented enough. This is how Peter felt. When I was in second grade, how many of you remember being in second grade? Glory days, come on. Okay, when I was in second grade, I will never forget this. My teacher sat down with me, and she said, Kayla, we need to have a parent-teacher conference. Ugh. And you have to be a part of it. How many of you have ever had to be a part of a parent-teacher conference? Okay, nothing good happens when you have to be there for them. Okay, so I remember her sitting me down and being like, Kayla, you have fallen way, way, way behind in your reading level. Now, some of you did the readers or leaders this year for Central Kids at School, and you've heard about that, and you're reading with second graders. The statistics say that in second grade, if you don't make your reading level, they look at how many kids don't make reading level, and they pick jail cells. They determine jail cells for them. Like, that's how many they project that they'll need later in life. Second grade, I find myself sitting across the table from a teacher. There was a wooden desk, and I was here, and my mom was here, and her name was Mrs. Sudakawa, and she talked really, really fast. And Mrs. Sudakawa told me, like, Kayla, you have fallen way, way behind in your reading level, and we need to do something to fix it. And I remember the first moment of feeling like I'm not good enough, and I am dumb. And she told me, she looked me in my eyes, and she said this really big word that didn't make a lot of sense, and I never heard it before. She said, Kayla, you are dyslexic. And now dyslexic means that you have a specific reading disability where you get like letters and sometimes numbers kind of all mixed up. And so when I would read something, it in my mind would look backwards, but it was written the way it needed to be written. Fast forward, years later, I graduated college with a 4.0. I don't tell you that because that's like, woohoo, go Kayla. I tell you that because in your weakness, God can make you strong. God is looking for people that feel unusable. You might feel dumb, and Jesus says, great, give me your weakness because I'm ready to roll. That is where people will look at you and say, God is working through them. Peter felt unusable. The second highlight in Peter's card would be he struck out with a religious crowd. Now, back then, he was a boy, and so you would go through like Bible classes, and you learn the scriptures, and early on, you'd be weeded out. You'd be weeded out if you were chosen or not chosen, and some of you feel this in a church setting or in a youth group setting. You're either accepted or you're not. Peter didn't feel accepted. Peter was kicked out of the religious crowd. Some of you have come here tonight, and you still don't feel a part of your small group. If that's you, can we just make eye contact? Tonight's your night. You're going to step up and you're going to be brave. And you're going to sit in small group and you're going to set the tone. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to be vulnerable and you're going to be brave and you're going to tell your story. And you know what? When you tell your story, people are going to say, me too. Me too. I'm looking for who's going to lead in my small group tonight. Who's going to step up and who's going to tell their story. Peter wouldn't have felt good enough to be a part of Jesus' mission. But here's the thing that we see in Peter's life is Jesus is constantly looking at the one who struck out and says, I want to get you back inside the batter's box. It is game time. I've chosen you. I've called you by name. It's time to go. I have a purpose and a plan for your life. And I don't know if anyone's ever told you that you are going to amount to great things, but you are. And maybe this is the first week you're going to start believing it. In the mornings when we do Devos, what I always love to do is I love to dream and I love to journal. Maybe this is the week that you're gonna start dreaming, you're gonna start journaling. And you're gonna look back years later. Before I go to every summer camp, I look in my old journals. And I look at what my scribbly little handwriting wrote when I was 12 years old. Some of you, this is your first camp and you're 12 years old. You're gonna look back when you're 24 and you're gonna remember all that God did on a night just like this. Maybe this is the first night that God is gonna speak to you. I don't want you to forget it. You've got to write it down. Now, there are a couple outcomes in life when we look at the game of baseball. And we're going to walk through all these. And I want each of you to pick one of these that you identify with most. The first one is that you're standing outside the box. The second one is that you've been caught bunting. The third one is that you go down swinging. And the fourth one is that you are hit by a pitch. Now, we're going to have, the first one is that a batter's box. So we're going to have that come up on the screen. This is what a batter's box looks like if you are not familiar with a batter's box. Now, let me explain this for a minute. There's a home plate, and let me tell you something. I had some umps back in the day that had the curliest mustaches. And now the ump's job is to come out from behind the plate and make sure that that home plate is spick and span and shiny. He would do that. And he'd make sure that that home plate was looking good, because I was about to step in the batter's box. Okay, on either side, depending on how you hit, whether you're right-handed or raise your hand if you're a righty. Come on. Okay, put your hand down. Raise your hand if you are so unique and you're left-handed. You're my people. I wish I was like you. Okay, so depending on how you hit, you will stand on either side of the batter's box. Now, here's the moment where we find Peter, and he is standing outside the batter's box. Now, here's the rules of the batter's box. You have to be in one of those two boxes for the pitcher to pitch. He cannot wind up and pitch to the catcher until you are in one of those boxes. To play the game, you have to get in the box. Now, Peter, he's with Andrew, and he's on a beach, and they're fishing. They're doing what they just felt like, well, this is just what we do, day in and day out. Until Jesus walks up. Jesus is walking along the beach. And he looks at them and he says, hey, follow me. I want to make you fishers of men. And in one of the translations, right away, Peter goes, no, but I'm too much of a sinner. This is Peter standing outside of the box moment. There will be moments in your life where you will make excuses to not get inside the box. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not useful enough. I've already failed. God says, no, I know. And Jesus didn't hesitate once. He said, Peter, follow me. When you get inside that box, you have purpose. When you get inside that box and you step in, you say, I am a part of this team. Jesus says, yes, you're good at fishing, but here's the real mission that I have for you. When you get in the game, God gives you your identity. God gives you a dream. God gives you a voice. And he says, let's go. Join the team. We're going to get you in the box. Now, the second theme in life is bunting. Now, that's kind of weird, right? How many of you know what bunting is? Okay, I'll walk us through it. Now, a bunt... I was really sly at these. I was kind of known for bunting. Okay, a bunt is great. You'd basically take the bat, and you are up in the box. Like, you're in the box, you're stepping in. And here's the trick with a bunt. You got to make it look like you're up there to bat. You got to make it look like I'm ready to knock this thing out of the park. So you're up there, and you step in the box, and you're ready, and you're eyeing that pitcher because you're going to keep your eye on that ball. And you're ready. You got your grip just so. You got your feet set. You got your elbow in. And here comes the pitch. 1, 2, 3. And instead of swinging, you go like this and you just tap it down. And so it just kind of piddles out in front of you. And it's supposed to catch the whole infield by surprise. Here's the thing that I think we do. I heard Wes talk about it this morning. And he said, one of my greatest fears is that we will have a youth group of kids that are just friends with each other. And that we will get so concerned with what's going on in our own bubble that we will forget that there are schools and there are people that walk our halls. And we don't have eyes for them anymore because we are so concerned with our little friends group, with our little bubble. It can be easy to bunt. It can be easy to look like you're on the team and just bunt. But here's the difference in between bunting and actually playing the game. It's that you show up for batter's practice. You show up to practice. You read your Bible. Some of you, you have all the answers. And I can say this because I was this kid. I would show up to church and I would have like this one-liner, just be really great if you could just like pray for my heart so I can like reach the kids at my school. But what was I doing? Some of you, you feel this. You feel like you've got the act, like you've got the jersey, like I've done this thing, I've been to camp, I have like all the throwback gear from all the other years of summer camp, and you are just bunting. And I want to tell you because this happened to me in college. There was moments where I bunted all through high school with my relationship with Jesus, and then I got to college, and it was hard because all I knew was how to bunt. I didn't know how to swing the bat. I didn't know how to listen to God's voice and do what he said. I wasn't brave enough. Bunting will only get you so far. So here's Peter, and here's a moment where Peter is caught bunting. Jesus goes to his disciples, and he goes, hey guys, Peter, James, John, we're going up to this mountain. I imagine that it's like a hike, like you could take if you went all the way up there. He goes, we're going to go up this mountain, we're going to pray. In the Bible, this is called the Transfiguration. And this is a super spiritual moment. This is kind of like a summer camp moment. Some of you, you've been to summer camp, you know the thing. They go up to the mountain and they start praying. And while they're praying, this is what it says. It says that while they were praying, Jesus' face became different and his clothes became white and gleaming. This is a spiritual moment that they will never forget. And then Peter comes in hot. How many of you have that friend that's like, I got this idea? And it's like, okay, give me a minute. Let me breathe. This is going to be a little crazy. Okay, so Peter comes in hot and he goes, guys, I got this. This is what we should do. We should build houses up here. And we should stay here forever. We should never go back down the mountain. He missed the point. Some of you, year after year, you think, I love summer camp, like it's the week I look forward to, and I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I'm saying we can't live here. Life starts when you go back home and when you get in the batter's box and when you get in the game. Life doesn't start here. And the reason why I tell you that is because life is short. Or summer camp is short and life is long. And there are so many decisions that you're going to have to make. Tonight is a night where you're going to have to make a decision to not just bunt with your relationship with Jesus. Not just fake it. It's not going to do anymore. The next one is where Peter he's swinging. He's caught swinging. And when you're swinging, you can't keep your eye off the ball. Now, fast forward a couple years. I'm 17 years old. I was going to high school up in Bellingham High School. Up in Bellingham, I was going to Ferndale High School. And I was on a select team for softball. And we had gotten to the championships. Like, this was an all-out brawl, though. Like, these were our rivals. You know when you play a rival? You're like, I am gonna win. Like, I'm gonna break a bone in this game. Like, we will win. So I am like tattered. I have like a bruise on my leg. I remember like I had a gash on my leg and I had to get bandaged. I had to sit out for an inning. It was this whole thing. Bases are loaded and we're tied. 2 outs. I step up to the plate. This is the moment I had been waiting for. You guys, I had trained since I was like 6 years old. I can do this. Bases are loaded. I remember before I stepped in the batter's box, I looked at every single one of my teammates in the eyes when they were on the plate, and all I needed was a base hit. That's all I needed, and I could do this. So I step up to the plate. I remember all the 3 things my dad taught me. Keep your eye on the ball. Short-term memory is key. Keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball. Pitcher winds up. I'm solid. I got my stance. I got my grip. I've done everything right. I've practiced. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Swing and miss. Okay, I can do this. Step out of the box. Short-term memory. Reset my mind. I can do this. I've got this. I was made for this moment. I will not go down not swinging. I will swing. I will do my hardest. I will get this person from third base to home. This is my moment. Step back into the box. I can do this. Eye on the pitcher. I will not take my eye off this ball. 1, 2, 3. Foul ball. Strike 2. Now, if you've ever stood in the box, there's a lot more anxiety that comes once you've already hit strike 2. Like you're not feeling quite as good as you were when you stepped in the box when it's fresh. Like the slate is clean. A lot of your relationship with God, it feels scary after you've messed up so many times. And this is where tonight you're going to understand grace, because grace says that there is always another pitch. I step up to the plate. Here we go. This is for all the marbles. I can do this. I hear the fans cheering. I hear my mama, and she is cheering. I look down third base, I see my coach. I look at first base, I see my coach. And I think, this is it. I need a base hit, and I can do this. Step up. Here we go. She winds up. I have my eyes locked on her. Here comes the ball. Here comes the ball. Swing, swing. And then I hear the stands erupt in cheering. And then I realize that I didn't hit the ball. That sound that I heard was the ball hitting the catcher's mitt. And I looked down third base, and I realized that all those cheers, they weren't for me, they were for the other team. And I look at third base, and I see my dad. My dad has his clipboard, and this clipboard holds all of the drills that we had done, all the batting practice, these 3 top things that I had to do when I was in the batter's box. My dad takes his clipboard, and he just throws it on the ground, and he walks off the field. I don't know if you've ever felt the pressure of having to be perfect, but I have, and it hurts. I don't know if you've ever felt let down by someone or if you've let someone else down, but in this moment, that is what I felt. I felt vulnerable, all eyes on me, and I felt like the enemy was cheering, and I was left in defeat. The batter's box is where heroes are supposed to be made. What do you do in life when you feel like you've just been swinging and you've been swinging and you just can't get it right? There are moments in life where you will have the perfect stance. You'll have the perfect verse in the Bible. You'll have the perfect grip. You'll have the perfect hat. You'll have the perfect teammate. You might have a great coach. And you will still strike out. Here's a moment where Peter strikes out. We pick up this story, and there's a story in the Bible where the disciples are on a boat, and they're in the middle of a lake. How many of you went to the lake today? Come on. Coeur d'Alene Lake is my happy place. Okay, they're out on this huge lake. They're out there, and out of nowhere comes this storm. There will be moments in your life where it won't feel like you'll see the storm. It'll be like, bam, all of a sudden, like when it rains, it pours. There will be moments in your life where you feel like everything just falls apart in an instant. And maybe you've been there, and maybe you've had a year that's felt like that. I know I have. In an instant, the disciples are like, oh my gosh, where did this storm come from? And they're filled with anxiety, and they can't quite keep it together. And they had just spent all this time with Jesus, and all of a sudden they start freaking out. This is what we do when storms come in our lives, is it's so quick that we forget that Jesus is with us. He will never leave you in a storm. Some of you already feel scared to go back home because you have to go back home, and home isn't a home, home is a storm. Jesus is with you. So here they are. They're in this boat. And this is a moment where Peter looks like an idiot. He looks like a crazy idiot. And the disciples are freaking out, and they're yelling, and they're screaming. And then all of a sudden, someone goes, oh, there's Jesus. There he is. You will always be able to find Jesus in the storm if you keep your eyes up. You got to be looking for him. If you're not looking for him, you're not going to find him. If you're caught up with what's going on right in front of you, you're not going to find him. They look up and they see Jesus, and guess what he's doing? He's walking on water. That's the God I serve. And here's what they say. They said, Jesus. And Peter calls out. He goes, hey, Jesus, if it's really you, can I come out there with you? Peter, you're my guy. I totally would have been Peter. Like, hey, it looks fun out there. Can I come? Because we're sinking. So I imagine Peter's just like, okay. I don't think he gracefully got out of the boat, because how do you get out of a boat when it's like going crazy? Peter leaps out of the boat, and he's walking on water. Now, the key in a storm is to keep your eyes on Jesus. And the Bible says, but when Peter saw that the wind, it is hitting his face, and it's cold, and it's wet, and the wind is blowing his clothes, and then all of a sudden, he looks down, and he sees the waves, and he doesn't quite know what to do, and so he's taking his eyes off Jesus, and then before you know, he's sinking, and then and Jesus reaches out, and says, Peter, where's your faith? In the storms of life, what's going to hold on to you? Who's going to be there? There's going to be moments where, yes, you have good friends, but there will be moments in your life where your friends won't be there. And who's going to be there? I want to propose that it's God. And maybe tonight's the night where you're going to make the decision that, God, when that happens, when I go down swinging, when there's a storm in my life that's unexpected, I will cling on to you more than I will cling on to anything else. And so Peter yells, Lord, save me. Here's the thing. Peter didn't have the faith to keep his eyes on Jesus. Now, I want you to write this down. Faith without your eyes on Jesus is just hopeful thinking. There will be people in life that will say, just be positive. Like, you can make it through. There are going to be moments where you feel like you can't make it through. Jesus will help you make it through. You got to keep your eyes up in the storm. Okay, the fourth thing, I'm going to call the band up. The fourth thing is Peter feels like he got hit by a pitch. And here's the thing in the game of baseball is when you're hit by a pitch, honestly, you don't plan for it. You don't plan to be hit. Like, oh, today would be a great day to just be belted with a ball. Guys, I would have the gnarliest bruises. I tried to find a picture. Kind of gross. I didn't want to show it. But I had some gnarly bruises. I had such bad bruises from getting hit by pitches that you could see the stitches of the softball. It was bad. I had people look at me like, are you okay? There are going to be moments in life where you get hit by a pitch. And it won't be, and a lot of it might not be anything that you even had any control over. And when you get hit by a pitch, that's directly associated with pain. And I felt pain in my life. And some of you, that might be the time that your parents sat you down and they said, we don't love each other anymore, but we love you. So we're going to get a divorce. That's pain. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But God's going to give you purpose in your pain. The pain that might come to mind when I talk about pain or being hit by a pitch is it might be a relationship that's gone bad. It might be someone in your life that has hurt you so bad. And I want you to know that I've been there, but that doesn't define you. Jesus works in pain, but you got to give it to him. You can't hold on to it. So here's Peter. And Peter goes through this really painful experience. And he's found in this courtyard. Now, I kind of imagine like this brick courtyard, kind of like when you first got dropped off. Like I imagine this beautiful courtyard, and Peter finds himself there. And in pain, there are going to be moments where you ask, why? Why? Why did this happen? What is going on? And Peter is sitting here. He's around this big fire, and he's asking, why? I'm going to back up the story. Just hours before, Peter looks at Jesus, and Jesus tells Peter some stuff that he does not want to hear. And here's what he tells him. He says, Peter, before the rooster crows, you are going to deny me 3 times. Which basically means, Peter, you're going to let me down. Peter goes, no, fam. Like, I'm cool. Like, I got it. No, that won't be me. Oh, Jesus, we're cool. Like, I went out in the water, and then you saved me. Like, I'm not going to do that. I learned. He's like, no, you're gonna deny me. You're gonna let me down. Like, we're best friends, but you're gonna let me down. And Peter is found in this moment where he's in this courtyard, and just hours before, he had watched Jesus get arrested and get taken. And he's dragged off, and all the disciples scatter. They're all scared, and Peter decides that he's going to try and follow where they're taking Jesus. So he's plopped in this courtyard, and he's standing around this fire, and he's trying to keep an eye on, like, maybe what's happening to Jesus, and all these questions are going through his mind, like, what's going to happen to me? He's only concerned with himself. And in pain, there's going to be a moment where you only want to think about yourself. And here's what God wants to do. God says, no. You're going to give me that pain. And through that, you're going to see the world in a different way. There's been pain in my life that has made me who I am today because Jesus gave me purpose in my pain. But you got to give it to him, because if you hold on to it, you're not going to have eyes to see anything else. Peter's found around this fire. And here he is. And here comes the moment where he's about to get hit by a serious pitch. And there's this girl. There's this servant girl. She's like all dressed up, and it's a cold, chilly night, and she's around this fire, and she sees him from across the fire, and she goes, and she thinks in her mind, I think I know that guy. And she walks around, and she gets a little closer to Peter, and she gets really close to her, and she goes, yeah, it's him. And I imagine that she whispered to him, and she goes, hey, I know you. Kind of accusatory, but also like, I'm going to keep this on the DL, but I know you. And she's like, I know you. You're the one that hangs out with Jesus. Did you know they just took him in here? And in that moment, Peter goes, arrows in, and he goes, no, that's not me. I don't know Jesus. You got me mixed up, lady. You are crazy. So Peter backs away from the fire. He's like, I can't be in the light anymore. I got to get out of here. That's what happens when we go through painful moments, is we want to retreat to the shadows. There have been moments this year where you feel like you've messed up. And so you have not come back to youth group, and you feel like I don't belong there anymore because I messed up, and who could I possibly tell that I've messed up? And so you retreat to the shadows, and so Peter backs away from the fire, and in the Bible it says he goes into the shadowy part of the courtyard, and he's hiding in the courtyard, and yet another servant girl comes up, and she comes in hot. She's like, I know you. Like, she just calls him out from across the courtyard. I know you. You are the one that hung out with Jesus. And she leaves a ... at the end of that sentence. There are going to be moments in your life where people are going to be like, do you follow Jesus? And it's going to be in the moments where it's painful. It's going to be in the moments where you have anxiety and you are scared and your parents get in divorce. It's going to be in those moments where people are going to be like, do you really follow Jesus? And you know what you're going to say? You're going to say yes, because he gives me purpose in my pain. And Peter goes, no, I don't know him. Strike 2 for Peter. 2 times he could have said, yes, that is my Lord, and he is in your captivity, but I don't care what happens to me, because I'm going to serve him, and I'm going to stand by him. There's going to be moments where you don't get it right. But grace says that there's always going to be another pitch. God doesn't leave you in your pain. So Peter looks for a way out in the courtyard, and he's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I got to get out of here. And it's dark, and he can't go over to the light, and the shadows aren't safe anymore. And he's thinking, what am I going to do? And he's so overwhelmed. And then this gentleman comes in, and he says, that is him. That's him. He's the one. He has an accent. He has an accent just like Jesus. I hear him. I've seen him walk with Jesus. And Peter goes, no, you've got the wrong guy. And he runs out of the courtyard. And he runs in defeat. Some of you this year, you've been running in defeat. right. I've ran there before and it hurts. And Peter's left, and I just imagine he books it out of that courtyard, and he runs as far away from Jesus as he could. And I just imagine he's weeping. He's weeping because he knows he let him down. And the second he runs out of the courtyard, the rooster crows. There's going to be moments in your life where you feel like you're hit by a pitch. It just hurts. I was 17 years old. And I was packing. I'd have to pack weekend after weekend for a while. And I remember I had this blue JanSport. Come on. I had this blue JanSport. And it was great. And this was my weekend backpack. Like, this is where I knew all my stuff fit in here. And I got it going on. And everything fits. And I had my routine. And so I would pack it up every weekend. And I remember putting my orange toothbrush in there. I remember putting my pillow in there. Or putting matching my PJs in there because we had matching PJs. And I remember packing movies like 50 First Dates and Hitch and A Bug's Life and Elf. We loved Elf. That was our movie. We watched it every weekend. And there was something about the routine of just packing it all. Like, it got me in the right mindset. Because I was like packing almost for a battle. When you feel pain, you got to show up to the battle, and sometimes it hurts, and you need people around you to help show up. If you're in a moment right now where you feel like it's just hard to show up to life, this is a safe place to talk about that. So I'm packing my bag, I throw my orange toothbrush, I throw in my matching jammies, and I pack the snacks. And the snacks of choice were always popcorn. It was something that she could still eat. See, at 17 years old, I had a best friend. This was my best friend. Some of you are here at camp and you're with your best friend. You can just give them a little nudge. It's going to feel good. Just do it. It's going to feel good. I was at camp with my best friend. And here we are, and it's just like this. And there was a night to respond. And we raised our hands and we said, I, Kayla Ray Young, I will follow Jesus until I have nothing left. And my best friend stood by my side and she said, I, Chelsea Ray Ebert, I will follow Jesus until I have nothing left. And when I was 15 years old, I had my best friend look at me in the eyes and say, Kayla, I have cancer. And I don't know the pain that you felt in your life, but I felt pain, and I felt it for a long, stretched out season, and it hurts. But this is my best friend, and we were going to stick together, and I was going to pack snacks, and we were going to have matching jammies, because I was packing to go to Children's Hospital weekend after weekend, when all the other 15-year-olds were like going to the lake in the summer, and they were hanging out with boys. I was packing to go to Children's Hospital. I was going to the giraffe wing, and I was going to room 210. We're building room 210. And at 210 was my best friend, and she was hooked up to a chemo. And she had to get treatment. And there was these ups and these downs moments of like, you're going to make it because we believe that God is who he says he is, and he's going to come through. And there was this moment at 15 years old where I'm dressed in all black and I'm watching the slideshow, and it's pictures of us. And we were growing up before my eyes. And then the last scrolled and it just said in loving memory. And I lost her. I felt hit by a pitch. I don't know what your hit by a pitch moment looks like, but it might come. And there'll be moments in your life where you will put your full trust in God. And I tell you this because your faith isn't going to be shallow. It's going to be deep, and it's going to be wide. And in the moments where you're going to grow it deep and you're going to grow it wide is you're going to lean into pain, and you're going to say, no matter what happens, I will keep swinging. I will not go down without a fight. And so here's Peter. He denied Jesus. And he just goes back to what he knew before, and that's fishing. Just hanging out with the fish. Grabs Andrew. He's like, well, that didn't work out. Jesus is crucified on the cross, and he dies. And it doesn't specifically say that Peter's there, but I just have this feeling that he was probably way, way off in the distance. And some of you feel like you've just been looking from the outside in this year at stuff that's been going on, and it's been hard, and you can't get up close because, like, if you feel like you get up close to God, like, you don't know if you can trust him with your pain because you felt like he let you down. I felt like God has let me down in my life before. I know what that feels like. So, Jesus is crucified, day 1. And I have this feeling that Peter was probably filled with a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. Some of you in here feel like you have a lot of guilt and you have a lot of shame. What takes away guilt and shame is the full understanding of grace. Jesus is the definition of grace. And though you may swing, and though you may miss, and though you might not even be brave enough to get in the box, and though you may just be buttoned, and you may just be feeling like, I just try and get through this, and I have this great show, but I don't really live for Jesus, and if you really knew what was going on the inside, you'd know that I don't have it all together. Grace says wherever you're at in the game that there is always another pitch. It is not over at strike 3. So there's this passage in the Bible, and it says that there's rumor, day 1, day 2, day 3, Jesus, he's alive. In your hardest moment, sometimes you just gotta get to day 3. Some of you, I promise you're on day 2. It feels like it's been forever, and maybe some of you feel like you're on day 1. You need to know you're on day 2, and on the 3rd day, Jesus rose again. And this is where grace happens. Here they go. It says Peter and another disciple, they're going to the tomb. And it says that the other disciple, he leaves Peter. He runs ahead. He runs ahead of the tomb. I identify with Peter because I remember this at 15 years old, being like, Jesus, can I trust you? Are you really who you say you are? Because you let me down. And if I get to that tomb and you're in there still and this is all a bunch of bogus, I can't do this. So the other disciple runs ahead. And I imagine Peter just walks with his head down, walks with his head down, walks with his head down. Finally gets to the tomb and looks up. And the stone was rolled away. And Peter goes on and he goes, okay. We pick up in the story where Peter finally meets Jesus. He's out there and he's fishing. And it's in John chapter 21. You're going to write this down because I want this to be a special moment. I always look back in my Bible and I look back at the dates. Maybe tonight you're just going to date this verse in your Bible and you're going to remember what God did in your heart tonight. You remember how he spoke to you. It's John 21. And it says this. It says they were out there fishing. And Peter just looks at his friends and he goes, I'm going to go fishing. Like, cool, let's go with you. They're out there and they're fishing. And all of a sudden, they see someone on the shore. And someone calls out, it's the Lord. It's Jesus. You got to keep your eyes up if you want to find him. You can't get stuck right here. And they look up and this is what happens. At dawn, Jesus was standing at the beach, but his disciples couldn't see who he was. He called out, fellows, have you caught any fish? No, they replied. He said, throw your net to the right side of the boat and you'll get some. So they did. And they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish. When Jesus shows up, there's going to be abundance. Tonight, there's going to be a moment where God's going to speak to your heart, and maybe he already has, and he's going to exceed all your expectations. It's going to be greater than any of the pain you've ever felt in your life. The voice of God in an instant can fill your life and put your pain into purpose. Then the disciple who Jesus loved said to Peter, it's the Lord. And when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, jumped into the water, and headed for the shore. Peter's just like, I'm done wasting time. Jesus, I need you. And some of you tonight, got to jump out of the boat and you got to say, Jesus, I need you. And you got to swim. And here's the thing about swimming. It takes hard work and it takes endurance. And you got to breathe right and you got to get your rhythm. Tonight, God's going to give you a new rhythm, and it's the rhythm of grace. Because grace says there's always another pitch. Someone that's been a mentor in my life, she told me this. She said, Kayla, on the best days of your life, you will decide how you're going to handle the worst days of your life. Today at summer camp, this week, before you go home, you're going to write down how you choose to handle the worst days of your life. How you choose to handle the time where you go down swinging or you go down getting hit by a pitch. This week is the week, and this is Peter's best day of his life. And you know why? Because he gets to the beach, and you know the first thing that Jesus says? He doesn't say what you think a religious leader would do. No. Peter looks at him, or Jesus looks at Peter, and he says, friend. And tonight, Jesus is friend. It's been a while. You've had a year, or maybe you've had a lifetime, and I've been trying to call your name. And tonight I call you my friend, and we're here, and we're together. The band's gonna play a song. And in this song, I want you to spend some time with Jesus. Because it's not my words, it's not a song. It's God who's gonna talk to you. This is a night you're gonna remember because Jesus spoke to you. So I want you to get in your own space. If you need to move for a minute, you can move. You're going to wiggle it. You're going to get your own space. I don't want you touching anybody. Girl, if you got a boyfriend here with you, if you got your boo here with you, that's great. But right now is not the time. You're not. This is you and Jesus. You're getting comfortable. They're going to play this song. And I want you to specifically think about one of these in your life that you identify with. Is it your time to step into the box? Has Jesus called your name? Is it time to step up? Is it time to stop bunting? Is it time to stop pretending? It might be time to stop pretending. Jesus is waiting and he's ready, and he said, let's go, let's get you in the game. I've got a life for you to live. Or is it this? Or is it, you need to have some time with Jesus because, God, I've just been swinging and I just keep missing. And it's not fair. Or is it this? Or is it, have you been hit by a pitch and you need to talk to Jesus about some pain in your life? During this song, you're going to pray. And Jesus is going to answer you. I'll be back up in a minute. Here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to get grace. And you're going to take hold of something that you're going to hold on to. In the days where it feels like you can't get through, you're going to look at this ball and you're going to remember that though I go down swinging, that though I keep my eyes on Jesus, that though I have short-term memory loss, that though I will keep my eyes on Jesus, though that happens in my life and it feels like it still all falls apart, I do everything I thought I was supposed to, that grace says that there is another pitch. Tonight, before you come up here and you grab one of these, it says grace. I want to know, where's Michaela Ducher? Michaela. Hi. This is for you. It's been a year for you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so honored to serve students with you. I love you. And I want you to know that grace says there is always another pitch for you and for your family, and we will not give up. Where's Jeremy? Jeremy Carlson. Where are you? You're in here somewhere. Dude, you're awesome. Thank you. You have served so faithful this year. I look at your integrity and I think, I want that. I want to serve that hard. Young men in this room, if you want to look up to someone, you can hang out with Jeremy. Jeremy, you have been a leader in your family. You've been a leader in internship, and I am proud of you. And I want you to know in this next season, God's given you this, and he says you're going to knock this out of the park. College is going to be good to you because you're going to keep your eyes on Jesus. I am so proud of you. And Grace says there will always be another pitch. So some of you tonight, just like Peter when he saw Jesus after it had been a while, he got out of that boat and he swam. Tonight, they're going to keep playing and you're going to come up here and you are going to run toward Grace and you're going to grab one of these and you're going to go home. I don't want to see any of these on the field. We had a team that worked really hard on these. Really hard on these because you are special and you matter. And they're praying for you by name. You're going to grab one of these and you're going to take it home. You're going to put it somewhere special. And in the days and the nights and the evenings when the darkness comes and when it feels like you can't go on, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, no. Grace says there is always another pitch for me. Here you go. Grace says there's always another pitch. All right, we're going to respond. And if you're a leader, you are welcome to come up here. You're going to pray with your students. Once you've gotten one, I want you to circle back and I want you to find some space and you're going to spend some time with Jesus.